Clay from Brooklyn. Football with the fellas, it's all about Big Blue. Here to talk a little bit about what I hope we do in this bye week. So we've made it to the bye week. We're 2-11, which is ridiculous and embarrassing. It's the second worst record in football, but we've made it to the bye week. So what I think we need to do is to at least make some changes to what next year is going to look like while we have this time off. And how do we do that? Well, first I'd start by looking to extend a couple of players that are already on our roster who will be free agents at the end of the year. The people that I'm most interested in trying to extend during this bye week period, Jermaine Illuminor, Cordell Flott, Daniel Bellinger, Isaiah Hodgins, and long snapper Casey Kreider. I think those players all need to come back next year. I think that's a no-brainer. I mean, Jermaine Illuminor has been a very solid right tackle. When last have we had a very solid right tackle? And to let him walk, unless he asked for some like exorbitant amount of money, of course, we're not going to pay him, $30 million a year. But if he asks for even $15 million a year, I feel like we really just need to bite that bullet and do it, because $15 million a year for a solid right tackle is very fair. I mean, he's, 30 years old, so this is probably his last big contract. So I don't think he's going to give us too much of a home discount, but I don't think he's going to try and break the bank. At least I hope not. So whereas a lot of, really, really good tackles are getting in the 20s, I think we could get him for 15, 16 million a year, especially if we put him in a 3-year guaranteed contract. So he knows his money's coming. Plus to throw a few $1 million in a signing bonus so he can get more money this year. We're the only team that can give him more money for this season by giving him an extension and or a signing bonus right now. But if we wait till the offseason, then we're competing with 31 other teams, and I just don't know that he'd come back here for that. Cordell Flott is not a Pro Bowler, but he is by far our most solid, consistent cornerback. I mean, Paulson Adebo was the big signing that I was all in favor of, but he's been hurt, can't stay on the field, and hasn't been great when he's on the field. He's been good. I'd say he's even been better than Flott most of the time, but Flott has been very solid. We need at least 3 really good cornerbacks. I think between Flott and Adebo, we have kind of mostly decent cornerbacks for 2 of those positions. And honestly, I think that Drew Phillips is more of a safety or money backer than a cornerback. He's just not that good in coverage. So if Flott goes, then we almost have to draft a cornerback or 2 or sign one in free agency, because we're way too thin, as we've seen all year long. So please don't make the hole even deeper by letting Flott walk also. Daniel Bellinger, I can't say it often enough. I think he's the best two-way tight end on this roster, and I don't think it's close. He has really good hands. He's a very solid blocker. Manhurts is a better blocker. Theo Johnson is a better athlete and a potentially better downfield threat. But Daniel Bellinger catches the ball when you throw it to him, and that's what we need from a tight end. Daniel Bellinger makes the solid, lose slowly block. That's what we need from our tight end. And we have, grossly underutilized him in his rookie deal, and he has pretty much one shot at getting paid, and it's now. So I don't think he's going to come cheaply, but I do think we should try to extend him now while, again, as I said, we're the only team that can give him more money for this year. Isaiah Hodgins clearly is a reliable, big body target with sure hands. We don't have a lot of those. Why wouldn't we want Isaiah Hodgins? How did we let him go in the offseason of 2024? I don't understand it. But he's back now. Please lock him down. And Casey Kreider is a very, very good long snapper, and I don't feel like looking for a new long snapper. Bring him back. So those are the players that I think we really need to bring back and this week. The other players who I would make offers to, team-friendly offers to, but would expect them to turn us down would be Wan'Dale Robinson, Micah McFadden, Greg Van Roten, and Austin Schlottmann. Those are players that I'm willing to let walk. Again, the NFL is, not for long. That's what NFL stands for. So guys like Wandale and McFadden, I'm sure are thinking this is probably my one and only chance to make a big payday and set my family up for life. And so I'm taking advantage of it. In other words, I don't expect home discounts from either of them as well. Wandale Robinson is putting up very good numbers, and someone's going to offer him, a very nice contract. He's not going to make $40 million a year, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's somewhere in the 15 to $20 million a year range. It only takes one team to see that as the value that he has, and I don't think we should pay him that. I wouldn't pay him more than 12 million a year. But again, I give him 3 years at 12. I can see a 3 year, $36 million contract for Wandale. He's a solid player. I like Wandale. He's a nice player. But there's nice wide receivers in the draft every year who won't cost us anywhere near $12 million a year. He can be replaced. Micah McFadden, I have said many times, I think is overrated. I think he's a solid second or third inside linebacker on your roster. He's not the guy. He still misses way too many times. Obviously, he hasn't played this year since the first game, but for my money, he still misses way too many tackles to be a top tier inside linebacker. And he comes off the field on passing downs because he's a liability in coverage. That's not someone I'm paying even $10 million a year to. But I think he's going to go shopping for that, and I think someone's going to give it to him. I just hope it's not us. Greg Van Roten is, 35 years old, solid, but not getting better or younger, and it's time to move on. Thank you for your service, but I would pay him, 5 million a year to be our depth guard if he wants to do that next year at 36. But I don't think he does. I think he either retires or looks for a team that needs a starting right guard and will pay him, 8 or $10 million a year. So I think he's gone. Austin Slopeman has been a solid backup center, and I'd be happy to have him back for, $2 or $3 million a year, but he is going to look for a bigger payday than that as well. And, if he gets it, great. So those players, I would offer a number that makes sense for us, but I don't honestly expect them to come back. Of the four, I think the best shot we have is Austin Slopeman, to be honest. Okay, so I would think that those things have to happen this weekend, this week, excuse me, because we need to know before we start preparing for the next game next week whether those things happened. In other words, if we don't sign these guys by this Sunday, then we need to assume we're not going to sign them. And then next week, as we start preparing for the following week's game, we need to make some changes. One of those changes is that Marcus Bowe should start for the rest of the season. Marcus Bowe should either start at right tackle if we don't extend Jermaine Eluemunor, or if we do extend Jermaine Eluemunor, then he should start at right guard or left guard, but guard, probably right guard. We need to know right now just how close to ready Marcus Bowe is. He looked pretty solid in those first two games when he started at left tackle for Andrew Thomas. But that was, ages ago now. So let's see if after, basically 3 months of watching other people play the positions, if he really has what it takes to be our right tackle, or at least shows the signs that he has what it takes to be our right tackle. He's a rookie, I get it. But there's no point, if we're not going to extend Jermaine Eluemunor, there's no point playing him for these last four games. We're 2-11, we're not going anywhere. I don't need to see how much better Jermaine Eluemunor is than whoever we're going to have next year. I need to see how much worse the person who's going to replace him might be before the season's over. In other words, don't wait till shorts and t-shirts in training camp next year to see if Marcus Bowe is worth giving the starting job to, because that's not going to really tell us. Don't wait till next preseason games, because that's not going to tell us either. That'll be mostly against backups. Right now, these are like preseason games for us. Like, doesn't matter to us if we win or lose as far as any future in terms of our record. But the other team we're playing against does. So their starters are still going to be out there. So give Marcus Bowe a chance to play against starters in live reps in real games right now, and let's see how close to ready he is. I hope he shows us that he can step in and be a starting NFL lineman, and that allows us to let GVR and or Jermaine Eluemunor leave. Not or, hopefully. I mean, not and, hopefully or. So that's what I think has to do. I also think we need to bring up from the practice squad people who you've been hearing me talk about all year long. We need to bring up Chapman and Turbo Miller permanently. Like those guys should just play the last 4 weeks, period. If Gunnar is hurt as badly as he looked like he was, he's going to miss a little bit of time as well. I really hope that that young man is healthy and fine, but that looks like a hit that's going to, I mean, thankfully we have a bye week, but I think he might even miss the week after that. And honestly, I'm not sure, you know, what his future looks like. So maybe Amir Marset needs to come up, or maybe we just need to let Turbo Miller run back the kicks. Again, the man's got speed to burn. He is electric with the ball in his hands. Let's see what he looks like as a kick returner and certainly as that third running back. The Eric Gray experiment is over. I'm done. Eric Gray should not return kicks or take handoffs. He is a okay at best running back. That's not going to be someone that we build around moving forward. But a guy with this kind of speed like Turbo Miller might be. Give him a shot. And if he's not, then let him go. Why do we have him on the practice squad? Let's if you can't bring up your third running back from the practice squad, then and you'd rather just play with two running backs, then he shouldn't be on the practice squad. Then we need somebody else on the practice squad who you will bring up when you're down to two running backs. Anyway, okay. Then we need to do a few kind of, recon jobs behind the scenes with Leo Chenal, the Kansas City Chief inside linebacker who you've heard me talk about for several weeks now. He would be our best inside linebacker right away from day one. So he's someone who I would try to reach out through back channels to see if he's even thinking about coming to the Giants. Like if he absolutely positively has no interest in playing here, then we have to make a different plan. But if we can find out whether he's interested, and I'm sure teams do this all the time. I don't think we'll get in trouble for this. We're not tampering. Well, we are tampering, but not in a way that I think will leave a paper trail or anything. I think we're just saying, if the money was right, would you consider us? And if not, then we need to make a different plan. But I hope he'd say, sure, we'll listen. Because I don't think he's going to make that much more money than Micah McFadden. I think the league sees because he also comes off the field on passing downs right now, but he doesn't uh, need to, in my opinion. I think the few times he's been in coverage, obviously we don't always know when a team's going to throw the ball, right? So he's been in coverage, several times a game, even if it wasn't on purpose. You know, he's looked much better in coverage than Micah McFadden has. He's a much better run fitter. He's a surer tackler. He's a better athlete. He's a better player than Micah McFadden. But I don't know that he'll make that much more than Micah McFadden on the open market. So if McFadden's getting, 12 million a year and he's getting 14 or 15 million a year, that extra 2 or 3 million is well worth it, in my opinion. Please go get Leo Chenal. The other person we need to bring up from the practice squad is kicker Ben Sauls. Do I even have to mention that Yang Wei Koo and the Charlie Brown and Lucy episode we just saw last week needs to be moved on from? Please let him go. Please let him go. And I hear his explanation. The ball was moving, so he stopped because the ball wasn't being held properly. And he was afraid it would. I don't want to hear it. Kick the ball. Not kicking the ball is clearly not making the field goal. Kicking the moving ball, maybe you don't make the field goal, but at least you have a shot. You have a 0% shot of making the kick that you don't take. So I'm ready to move on from Graham Gano. I'm ready to move on from Young Wei Koo. Please give Ben Sauls the rest of this season to show us what he can do. I've been banging the table for him since last spring. It is time now to see what he can do. Uh, so the last move I'm going to say is probably a little controversial or whatever, but I think we also need to reach out to Christian Wilkins. Christian Wilkins was an elite defensive tackle as recently as the first month of the 2024 season. Yes, he's had some injury concerns. Yes, he's had some other weird issues in the locker room and on the field with, crossing boundaries and whatever. He's got things to deal with. But I believe that he would deal with them for two reasons here on the Giants. One is that he's really good friends with Dexter Lawrence. And I think he really would love to play alongside Dexter Lawrence like he did at Clemson. And two, the league is kind of worried about him. I don't think he's going to be given, $20 million a year contract right away again. I think he's going to be an approve it deal somewhere. I think he needs to show the league, you can rely on me. I'm healthy enough and sane enough to be close to, if not the guy that I was from 2019 to 2023 and the first few games of 2024. So we can, if he's healthy enough, sign him right now and let him play these last 4 games with very little investment, and then we'll get a little bit of a sense and a head start on seeing what he could be next year. Worst case scenario, he's not very good, and we've spent less than $1 million on 4 games. Best case scenario, or better case scenario, he shows that he is healthy and is pretty good, and then he walks and goes and get a big deal somewhere else, and we get a comp pick, right? We get a compensatory pick because he was on our team and left and went somewhere else. Best case scenario, he plays like the baller that he was his first few years, and we have him in the fold for next year, and he and Dexter Lawrence shut down the run like almost nobody else in the league can do. Like maybe the Seattle pair, Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams is comparable, but most teams don't have 2 interior defensive linemen as good as Dexter Lawrence and peak Christian Wilkins. So yes, let's please do that. Is he still that guy that he used to be? I have no idea, but you know who is not that guy? Everybody else not named Dexter Lawrence that plays interior defensive line for us. Nunez Roches is not as good as Wilkins used to be. DJ Davidson, not as good as Wilkins used to be. And they're both going to be free agents. No need to bring them back. Roy Robertson Harris isn't bad. He's a solid third or fourth interior defensive lineman. Is he as good as Christian Wilkins ever was? He is not, nor will he ever be. So Christian Wilkins is my next wish list piece. Bring him in. If he's not healthy enough to sign to play right now, at least let him know that we put him on a futures contract and bring him in for next year. We should have never let A'Shawn Robinson walk. That's one of many reasons that Joe Schoen has to go. And we haven't had another run stuffer to put next to Dexter that's anywhere near as good as Christian Wilkins has been and hopefully can be again. So those are my thoughts for what I would love to see us do during this bye week as we, look to the last 4 games of a 2-11 season. And, the season is basically lost. So let's use that to our advantage and learn as much as we can about what next year might look like. Again, that's kind of it in a nutshell. All right, but that's what I think. I want to know what you think. So as always, please grab the like button, share, subscribe, and drop a comment. Clay from Brooklyn, Football with the Fellas, all about Big Blue, and I'm out.
Big shout out to El Marquis Productions, the talent behind the music and production here at Football with the Fellas. It's all about Big Blue. Their beats bring energy and excitement to every episode. El Marquis' skills in mixing, mastering, and creating top quality sound make the podcast come alive each week. For your own projects, check out elmarquisproductions.com and take your sound to the next level.